Why do you think the U.S. will lose the war with Iran?
So I think right now there are three major vulnerabilities of the American military. The first is political will, the lack of political will, meaning that the American population is not supportive of this war. Close to 80% of Americans oppose a first strike against Iran, and only about 40% of Americans today still support the military operation against Iran. Second issue is the lack of manufacturing capacity. So to fight a modern war, you need to produce a lot of munitions, a lot of missiles, a lot of tanks. And unfortunately, what America chose to do was offshore its manufacturing capacity, its factories, to China. And so that's going to be a major constraint on America's capacity to sustain this war. Number three is that America is not willing to sustain casualties, and because it looks bad on TV. And already people are not supportive of this war. So if Americans start arriving back home in body bags, then you can imagine major protests across the nation. So these are the three major constraints on the American military. What I will do now is explain to you why each is problematic. Okay. So the first is the idea of political will. And the reason why political will is important is that in order to win a modern warfare, you have to move towards something called total war. Okay? And what total war is, you structure your entire society to winning the war. Your industry, your culture, your political system all have to be focused on doing whatever it takes to winning the war. So last time America fought a total war was, of course, World War II, and possibly the Korean War. But World War II is a classic example when the entire American industrial base shifted from making cars to making tanks. And that's what you have to do in order to win, because wars take a long time. They take a lot of resources. Your entire population has to be behind it. And unfortunately, Americans grew up watching the Persian Gulf War in 1991, and then the 2003 Iraq War. And these were quick, simple wars that demonstrated America's technological supremacy. It was like a video game. And so the American population is sort of spoiled. It's become indifferent to war and believe that, okay, it's going to cost us a lot of money, and it's not moral, and it's terrible that these civilians overseas are going to die, but it's not really our problem. So, in other words, I doubt whether or not the American population is willing to make the sacrifices necessary in order to win this war.
Is this concept of the aura of invincibility that America has?
Right. Okay. So the idea of the aura of invincibility is how America projects power, right? So America doesn't want to fight a war. America just wants to scare people. And so the way that America has fought wars these past 20 years is using three pillars, okay? These three pillars are aerial supremacy. So Americans don't send in ground troops. They just attack from the air. And you can't really do regime change from the air. You have to do it from the ground. So the way they compensate for this is by using proxies, right? So you look at the wars in Libya and Syria, where these rebel groups, these insurgents, were supported by American air power. Okay, that's number one. Number two is using propaganda. So controlling the media narrative through New York Times, through the CNN, through social media, trying to give the illusion that this war is just, this war can be won really quickly, and there will be no consequences to this war. And the third is the US dollar, which is that the Americans have the world reserve currency. Therefore, they can bribe anyone and everyone to do their bidding, right? So you look at the wars in Syria and Libya, where these insurgent groups were funded by CIA operatives with endless, like cash bags, right? So, and these three pillars give the illusion of the aura of inevitability and invincibility, which is America cannot be defeated. The problem is that it's just an illusion. It's just theater, right? So when you run up against an enemy who doesn't care, who's like, I'm going to fight you to the end because I don't really believe you, and also I'm not afraid to die, and also you're attacking my home, and I'm not going to just surrender my home to you, then this illusion shatters. And that's the problem in Iran right now. And so when this illusion shatters, then you have to move towards total war, which is, okay, now I have to commit my resources to actually winning this war. And unfortunately, Americans aren't willing to do that yet.